Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Chicago Bears beat reporter Michael Dwojak, joined here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar, as we are joining you guys Monday morning, start of a new week. It's still freezing outside, but it doesn't matter. The Bears won on Sunday in commanding fashion. They beat the Cleveland Browns 31-3 in a game where, quite bluntly, they just took care of business. They looked like the better team. They looked like the team that was winning 10 games this season. The Browns, man, that kind of brought some flashbacks, Joe, about just how inept things can look when you've got a good defense. Your quarterback is still trying to figure stuff out. Your offensive line is injured. I love Kevin Stefanski. I think he's a really good coach, but there are still some mistakes made by that offense. And Joe, the Bears on Sunday, they did what they needed to do. They just blew out the Cleveland Browns and picked up that 10th win of the season.
Yeah, that's what a good team, which we have finally come to that conclusion. The Bears are a good football team. What a good football team does to a bad football team. And we know about the Browns defense, Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett was Myles Garrett yesterday. It was nothing like the Bears shut him down or anything like that. But the Bears established control early, and I think, I predicted they would score on their first three possessions. That didn't happen, but point remained, they had a strong start offensively, which we really hadn't seen a lot of the last month or two, and that was really encouraging. And I thought the game was going to be over by halftime. They had that great drive going in the second half. Probably about the only thing that wasn't great yesterday for the Bears was that one drive where they were moving downfield, get inside the 10, and then kind of just – self-destruct a little bit there. And it could have been 21-0. But that aside, we were just saying before we went on here that we'd be nitpicking about the negatives by the Chicago Bears yesterday. It was a really complete dominant effort, one you would expect. You don't always get those, as we know, around this league, but you got it yesterday.
If you're joining us on a live stream, thanks so much for joining us. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe. Get all the comments in there in the chat. Some questions, what have you, some thoughts from yesterday's game. Make sure you give us a comment there. If you're joining us on Facebook, same thing. Make sure you give us a like, heart, whatever you want to do. Laugh. I've seen some people laugh. I don't know whether that's like a good thing or bad thing, Joe, that people are laughing on Facebook, but we'll take it. But make sure if you guys have any questions on Facebook, you guys can comment, I think, in there as well, and we'll see your comments and questions, so we can answer some of that. And if you're joining us on the podcast, thanks so much for joining us there. Make sure you subscribe there as well. And if you want to join us on the live stream, obviously join us on Friday and Monday mornings. Joe, a week ago we talked about, is this going to be a trap game and all that sort of stuff? And I feel like Ben Johnson made it clear. That was kind of the lead of my story for my main story yesterday of, listen, even before we were able to kind of, do an autopsy on that loss of the Packers, the Ben Johnson had already moved on and was like, listen, you can't overlook the Browns. They've got a top 3 defense. They're a really good team. They're better than their record was. And that was kind of the refrain we heard from Halas Hall this whole week about just, about how the Browns, listen, they're 3-10, but they've got good parts, right? Like Myles Garrett, they've got good defensive line pressure. Their secondary is talented. Shorter Sanders can burn you at times, and the running game is good at times too. So the Bears took that seriously, and I think you saw that on Sunday, right? Just with the way that they approached the matchup, it was very clear to me that this game felt, in past regimes, it felt like a game where, maybe the Browns kind of hang around a little bit too much longer than they needed to. But for me, it felt like, and Caleb said this after the game yesterday too, where the coaches just made it very clear about what they needed to do. They put them in this position to succeed. And I think you saw that on Sunday, where everyone just knew what they needed to do to take care of business. And that to me kind of gave me a glimpse into what, that's what winning teams do, right? Winning teams don't overlook the bad teams. They don't fall for the trap game narrative or whatever. They just take care of business against inferior teams.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it just speaks to the growth of this football team. If the Bears were playing the Browns in week 3, same guys available for each side, I don't know if they win 31-3. I don't know if they were ready yet.
No, probably not. Yeah.
Right. But now they are. And then that's, again, you don't have to beat them 50-0, but 31-3 is a blowout any way you look at it. And that just speaks to where the Bears, how far the Bears have come since week one. So that was really encouraging. And you had said it last week, Michael, that, we haven't seen any signs of this Bears looking ahead too much under Ben Johnson. And that was key because they certainly looked prepared yesterday. And the Browns, like you, they kind of looked like the Bears from last year or the last couple years, when they weren't shooting themselves in the foot with penalties. They were just bad. And, look, it was cold yesterday. I went outside to grab a newspaper or get a cup of coffee or whatever, and I wanted to go back inside. So it was cold. The wind wasn't much of a factor, so I figured you'd be able to throw the ball. But, boy, the Browns players really look cold. I mean, and look, none of these guys are from Chicago either side. It's not like the Bears love playing in bare weather, cold weather. No one likes to play in this kind of weather when it's this cold. But the Bears certainly looked comfortable at home, and the Browns, in a way, other than Myles Garrett, maybe looked like they didn't want to be there, and who could blame them?
Yeah, I never like to say I never like to accuse players of giving up because obviously this is their livelihood and this sort of stuff. So I'm not saying that anyone is giving up, but that second touchdown from DeAndre Swift, there were some tackles there where I was kind of like, there are some business decisions being made at this point. There were some tackles later on in that game where I was like, all right, like some guys know what they're doing. They're trying to stay healthy and they don't want to go into the offseason like Patrick Mahomes or anything like that, like an unfortunate injury that might affect their next season. So, the Bears, Cleveland isn't warm by any means this time of year. I mean, they're obviously, and they've got their own share of lake effect snow and all that sort of stuff. But it was very clear that the Bears were prepared for everything on Sunday and played like a team that was. All right, every day after a game, we like to do 3 winners and 3 losers. We'll break things down. That's a good way to break things up. So, Joe, who was your first winner from Sunday's blowout win?
Nice to have lots of options, right? And we can go a lot. We shouldn't run out of candidates after 2 or anything or 1. I'm just going to go with DeMarco Jackson because the beginning of the season, I couldn't have told you who he was. I mean, this is a guy, a 5th round pick of the Saints a couple of years ago. They cut him in August. Bears pick him up, depth piece. Maybe he makes your practice squad. A sack, and to me, really the play that put the game away in a way. Well, there's 2 because the Bears responded right away with the Caleb crazy throw to DJ Moore in the end zone. But that interception, he had the sack in the first half. Get his chance at linebacker because all the injuries. Now Tremaine Edmonds is still out, so he's playing. And was it 2-3 weeks ago when he had the really good game? Him and Amon Abdenama, I'm already blowing the pronunciation second time around. But DeMarco Jackson, what a big game! What another found money guy like Nashawn Wright here. So what a performance! And that interception tipped it. I thought it was T.J. Edwards at first because it's 50. Was he 57 or 53? And the numbers are in the 50s, and it's kind of like right where TJ would be, but he tips it, comes up with the interception, and then bang, the Bears go to the end zone right away. I don't know how Caleb completed that throw, but he made the plays. And when you're having a season like the Bears are, these are the guys who pop up. Guys, you didn't know who they were at the beginning of the season, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and they deliver. And that speaks to the young man. He's not a kid. I mean, well, he's a kid to me, but, he's 20, what is he, 25 or 26? I don't know. But anyway, props to DeMarco Jackson.
Yeah, that was a pivotal play for the Bears, obviously. The Bears' offense was stagnant at that point. I mean, yes, they had scored on 2 of their first 3 possessions, but then after that, they hadn't scored in 5 straight possessions. They kind of looked discombobulated. Obviously, you had the whole halftime thing of, is Caleb Williams injured? Is he not going to play? Well, Case Keenum is warming up or whatever. So you had all that, but then, that it was a very important moment because, the Bears were able to finally turn, those turnovers into points. And so that was really important for the Bears just because DeMarco, I like the way he's played. He's really stepped up in the absence when TJ Edwards was out, when Noah Sewell was out. He's done a really good job with Tremaine Edmonds out here. I'm interested to see what things kind of look like here in the next couple weeks. Now Tremaine Edmonds, I think, will be eligible to come off or his practice window will be open. We'll see if the Bears open it up this week. But I would agree. I think DeMarco has done a really good job stepping in for a guy that just had a relationship with Dennis Allen before. it was really impressive, and it was really fun to see after the game that he was able to get a game ball there just to kind of be recognized for putting the game away. And that was kind of the thing where, the Bears looked like for a while they were doing that thing that they always do this season where it's like, well, they really should put the Browns away here and really should make this a 21-0 game. But they kind of let the Browns hang around a little bit. So that was a very pivotal play that kind of changed the trajectory of Sunday's win. My big winner from yesterday is going to be DJ Moore. With the whole hoopla last week, obviously, if there's Caleb like DJ Moore, does he hate DJ Moore? I think yesterday showed you that when Caleb gets the ball to DJ Moore, it's going to work. 2 touchdowns, 69 receiving yards, 4 catches on 5 targets. That first touchdown was a nice lead-in touchdown by Caleb. Good execution on both of those guys. And then that second touchdown, I don't know how that was a touchdown. That's a throw that not many quarterbacks can make, or ill-advised throws, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for DJ to make the play, fight off 3 defenders, a really impressive play. And really important for that to just happen because, listen, you lose Rome Odunze right before kickoff again, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later in the podcast about what is going on here with his injury stuff and bringing players back too quickly. But for DJ to step up like we know that he could, that felt like a very important moment just because you need DJ in this playoff run, whether over the next 3 games, if and when the Bears make the playoffs. DJ Moore is a key offensive weapon, and I think he showed it again on Sunday, and it was really good to see that they were able to kind of rebuild that connection.
Yeah, and we figured after the one catch for -4 yard game against Green Bay, like they can couch that however they want, but come on, I mean you have DJ Moore. He's not hurt. He's ready. I mean, I'm sure he's banged up like everybody else. And we've talked about the injuries, the nagging ones he's had this season, but you got to get him involved more. And whether it was because Rome wasn't playing, well, he wasn't playing the week before either. I don't know, but you got him the ball. When you get him the ball, he makes things happen. And he did yesterday. And he's just a darn good football player. He's not going to the Pro Bowl again this year. He's never been to one. He's always been in that next group of that next group of guys below the guys who are the stat monsters. He's not certainly not this year, but he's still a good football player. I hope he's on the team again next year. He's getting paid, but nice to see him get a couple touchdowns yesterday, and he was a factor, and he should be a factor every game, whether you're playing the Browns or the Packers or anybody else. He should be a factor every game. If he's healthy, you throw the football to him, and they did, and you saw what happened yesterday.
He can be an X player for you, right? Like he can be a guy you go down the field, someone that you can connect with. He can be someone that you do intermediate yardage. Like he's such a versatile Swiss Army knife. So it was good to see him. And Ben Johnson kind of talked about it after the game where he was just like, and so someone asked him like, oh, is this like what DJ needed? And Ben was kind of like, he's been doing this all year. Like Ben has never really wavered on DJ Moore. He's never been critical of him. He's never said anything that DJ Moore has done wrong and like is a reason why he isn't getting the snaps. It just hasn't worked out for some reason. So it was really encouraging for him to come back because, we don't know what the Rome Odunze injury is. Looking forward, Luther Burden obviously left yesterday's game. We don't know what the severity of that is because we'll listen. We'll talk to him, to Ben Johnson later on in this afternoon. But DJ Moore showed you what he can do, and it was good to see that the Bears were able to reconnect there with a couple touchdowns. All right, Joe, who is your second winner from yesterday's win?
Well, you just mentioned him. I'm going to go with Luther Burden. It's too bad he got hurt because he has been focused, more of a focus the last 2 games with Rome out. And, I've liked Burden since the preseason games. I thought he's looked explosive, really good after the catch. More of it yesterday, that big 40-yard pass over the middle, which led to their second TD, I believe. He was great, really good. I think you see, again, it was a head scratcher to me when they took him with their first pick in the second round. Why are you taking a receiver? But you see how good he is. And if you look at the overall stats in the NFL, they're not going to jump out. He doesn't rank high, but in receptions like no Bear receiver does this year. But Luther Burden III is the goods, and to see him getting the football more is really good to me. Even when Rome gets back, if he gets back, let's hope he gets back. You still got to get him the football. I think you got something special in here. Loveland is really looking looking like the guy who was picked 10th overall. I think they nailed these two picks. It's been really trending upward the last 4-6 weeks now with both of these guys. And so Luther Burden, another good game. Would have been nice to get him a touchdown, but again, you scored 31. You didn't need guys. You didn't need TDs from 6-7 guys yesterday. But Luther Burden, let's go. Let's keep it going with him. I think they got something with him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like the rookies looked good yesterday, right? Like Luther Burden yesterday obviously led the team with 84 receiving yards. Colston Loveland made a couple really impactful catches. He's finished the game with 4 catches for 63 yards. Ozzie Trapillo has looked good at left tackle. He wasn't noticeable to me. Obviously, I know Myles Garrett picked up a sack and a half yesterday. I don't remember exactly who he was going up against when he picked up those that sack, but your top 3, I think it went. Shamar might have been in the middle there in the second round. I forget exactly what the order was, but you're getting production out of your rookie class, which is something you were really harping on at the beginning of the season, Joe, where you were like, I want to see these guys go. And, Kyle Monungai, he had 33 yards, 11 carries. I feel like some of the holes weren't really coming around for him. But listen, your rookies are making impacts late in the season, and that's exactly what you wanted to see, right? And, you knew what was going to kind of happen. At the beginning of the year, these rookies are trying to figure things out. They're trying to earn Ben's trust, all that sort of stuff. But for a majority of your rookies to make an impact this way, I think it has to be really encouraging, because that's what you want. Like, you want your guys to make an impact this time of year. You want guys that Ben Johnson played a role in bringing into this team to make an impact. So I agree. I feel like all 4 of those guys have really made an impact over the past 5 or 6 games at this point. And it feels really good to see that they were able to, bring things up and really have an impact in yesterday's win.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the season, you're right. I think I don't want to speak for every Bears fan or every Bears critic out there, but I wanted to see them more involved, because the first 4 or 5 weeks, they really weren't. And we're like, let's go already. I mean, this is not another rebuilding year. We're tired of this. You draft guys high, they need to come in and make an impact immediately. So was I impatient? Yeah, but that's me. That's why I would never be a good GM or coach, because I'd be making knee-jerk reactions after every game, after every play a lot of times. But I'm sure Ben, when he talked to you guys at Hallis Hall, stressed patience with this rookie class. And let's face it, I mean, Ryan Poles, I didn't quite get the reason why he was getting the extension, the contract extension, because I thought there's still a lot for this guy to prove, including this draft class, because to me, this was an important year for him with this draft class. And all of a sudden now, maybe a lot of it's just the tutelage of Ben Johnson and his coaches, but they are delivering, and they are really getting a lot out of this class. Like you said, from Loveland to Ozzie, a little more now the last month with the injuries, to certainly Luther Burden, to Monungai, who's just been fantastic. Luke Newman, when he's gotten a few plays here and there, he's looked like he could step in tomorrow and be a starter. So there's a lot to be encouraged, and that's another big reason why they're sitting here shockingly at 10-4 with 3 to go. It's because of these guys being more involved, especially in the last, the second half of the season here, and going a little before that. So big shout out. Am I saying this out loud? Shout out to Ryan Poles for this draft class, because these guys really are delivering.
Yeah, they really are. Obviously, there's you would want obviously more for Ruben Hippolyte. I know he was a healthy scratch yesterday, which was an interesting decision. Obviously we know Shamar Turner's out for the season. Zay Frazier is dealing with his stuff off during the season. But for a majority of your rookie class to be making impactful plays this late in the season, I feel like that's obviously a big success. And kudos to Ryan Poles, and also kudos to Ben Johnson. All right, my second winner is, the stats didn't look amazing by any means. 242 passing yards, 60% completion rate, 2 touchdowns. But Caleb Williams looked good yesterday, and he looked his most comfortable since that week 3 win over the Dallas Cowboys. He just looked confident in his throws. He was leading his receivers into yaks. He was making that throw to DJ Moore. Someone was asked, like, is that an ill-advised throw? And Caleb basically just shortly said, like, I can make any throw. And it's such a that was such a what are we doing? Like, what are you throwing into? Like, no. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, how the heck did DJ Moore catch that? And that's just who Caleb Williams is. And I think it is such an encouraging thing because that's what you want to see from your quarterback heading into the final stretch of the season here, right? Like, that's what you want to see from Caleb Williams as he enters the final stretch of his first year with Ben Johnson, where he looks comfortable in the offense. He didn't have too many throws that were like off the mark or anything like that. His completion rate should have been higher because there's some drops in there from his receivers and the running backs to where you're kind of like, man, you just got catch it. Like Luther Burden had one where it just hit his hands, and again, it's 8 degrees outside. Obviously, it's hard to catch a ball like that in those temperatures. But given the circumstances, going against a really tough Browns defense, even with the injuries, Caleb Williams looked confident. He looked really efficient when he was out there. I know he dealt with that little injury at the end of the first half that maybe kind of impacted him to start the second half, but it didn't seem like a major concern. But Caleb looked efficient. I know the stats maybe aren't season best or anything like that, but I thought that was the best that Caleb looked since that week 3 win against the Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely. If it wasn't his best game was probably Dallas. It certainly was one of his best games of the year, and it's Cleveland, but it's a good Cleveland defense. He had some little hiccups there in the second half, but all in all, first half, at one point he completed 9 in a row. That maybe their best drive of the game was the drive they didn't score on when they came up empty with the missed field goal. He was fantastic. And you mentioned the draft. There were 3. Monungai dropped the screen. His second pass of the game, like, oh boy, here we go again. It's going to be a tough day for Caleb in the offense, the passing offense, that is. But like you said, it's 8 degrees. And Burton slipped on another play where he was open. The initial looked like Caleb was a downfield pass, may have been in the second half, where looked like he was just like, where is he throwing that one? Well, Burton fell down on the play. That's why, with the footing. So it was really good. And I think, Michael, we're starting to see it. This is just from watching, and what I'm seeing is the consistency is getting there with him. Because even the Green Bay game, we talked about that second half yesterday. I mean, he looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL that second half against Green Bay. And unfortunately, it ends when he makes maybe his only bad throw of the second half against Green Bay, and then they lose the game. But yesterday, no, he was very efficient. It was cold, wasn't windy, but I'm sure for the receivers, it's got to be hard to catch the football too, right? And you saw Shedeur. I mean, some of his throws were like, he did complete a couple downfield, Shedeur, but he had some throws that were wobblers because, dang, it's cold, and you're basically throwing a frozen football. So, Caleb was really impressive. Now, the throw he made to DJ, I thought for certain he was either going to throw it into the stands or throw it out of the end zone. And then, because that's, the great Don Pearson, who wrote for the Tribune for years, once wrote, this is many, many years ago, but it was, as a writer, you'd be able to appreciate this. A guy made a tight throw, and he said it was such a tight hole, it would have made a wren nervous. That was a great description. But that was that kind of hole that he had to get that ball to DJ. And I love the confidence. I can make any throw, he said with a straight face, and was short when that question was asked about that throw. Is that not a high percentage throw or whatever? But he did it. But, that's the gunslinger in him, right? That's the Favre. You think about the greatest gunslingers in the game. They think they can, they think they're a sniper, that they can hit a target from 2 miles out. That's the mentality. So, and I want that in my quarterback, right? I want a confident guy. I don't want a guy who's going to get nervous. And I think that also ties into his clutch gene that we've talked so much about this year. Didn't need it yesterday, certainly, because they were up big. But I liked what I heard from him post game. I like where he's trending. Because I've said it even last week, maybe the whole accuracy thing, maybe it's just going to take a whole off season and look, this is what it is. We're late in the season. You got a month to go. It's not going to get much better. But you're seeing it a little more. You're seeing it a little more, I think, week to week with him. And we always talk about, progress isn't linear. But I'm encouraged. And I don't know if I felt that way even 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple points off that throw to DJ Moore, next gen stats said that had a 16.1% completion probability rate, which is an insane thing, obviously, for that to be complete. And you mentioned that gunslinger thing. Like, it's so interesting because I don't feel like even Caleb's interceptions that he had, like, he's had so few interceptions. The Bears released a stat where Caleb Williams now holds the NFL record for fewest interceptions in the QB's first 100 career pass attempts. Caleb has 12. And that's kind of the thing with Caleb, where he doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't throw with too many interceptions. Obviously, last week, the game against the Packers ended with an interception, but there aren't too many moments where you're like a Favre throw where you're like, man, you're just gonna have to live and die by him, trying to squeeze those passes, and some of them are going to be picked off, some of them aren't. I don't think that's the case with Caleb, where I feel like he's really careful with the ball, but he still somehow executes on those insane, I can't really remember a time where a defense intercepted Caleb on one of those passes. You know what I mean? He somehow is able to complete that insane pass to Olamide Zaccheaus a couple weeks ago, right? That probably should have been picked off. He almost did it again to Zaccheaus a few weeks ago again. So it's really interesting because he's got that gunslinger mentality, but it doesn't have the interceptions to go with it, which has to be such an encouraging thing, right? Because you don't want to mess that up. And it is 1,000 passes. I don't know what I accidentally said, but it was 1,000 passes steps. But still, it's an impressive stat regardless, just for him to be able to have that record. And it kind of shows that, he is a gunslinger, but he's not like most gunslingers where you live and die by the interceptions that he's going to have.
No, well, I mean, I'll take if he has a career Brett Favre had, I mean, we'll take that in Chicago.
Well, sure.
Right? But no, he makes those throws. And that's what we've talked about all year, too. It's like he makes those, and then he misses the guy wide open, 10 yards away. Those are the ones that drive you nuts. But he's got that ability. I heard an interview with the great Kurt Warner, the Hall of Famer, earlier this year, and he was talking about when he was in camp, and it may have been Mike Martz, and Warner comes in the game, and there's a tight window, and Martz asks him the next day, and they're looking at film, and it says, "Why did you make that throw?" He goes, "Because the guy was open." He goes, "He wasn't." It's like, well, he was to me. And the point of Warner was making, because they were talking about Caleb Williams, is when you're that elite, you see the hole, you think it's open as a quarterback. Everyone else says, it's not open. Your coaches are saying it's not there. And Warner's like, well, to me, that's not a hard throw. And everyone's like, you're crazy. Well, no, I'm just good. So I think he's got some of that in him where we think it's not open. He's probably thinking, yeah, it is. I'm good. And again, I'd rather see that than the guy who doesn't, he's not quite certain, but there's a lot to be said about confidence, because even pro athletes, you see it in every sport. Sometimes they lose confidence. You're like, you're a pro athlete. How do you lose confidence? They do. I don't think Caleb does. And that's another thing I like about him.
All right, Joe, what is your final winner from yesterday's win?
Well, we got to mention DeAndre Swift. I can't believe we've taken this long to get to DeAndre Swift. Another fantastic game from him. 98 yards. Michael, he did yesterday really what he's been doing all year. He's averaging 5 yards a carry. He's really had a good year. I had to look it up this morning where he ranks now, in rushing leaders in the NFL. I think he's only sixth in the NFC. There's some good backs. Javonte Williams is even having a great year with Dallas, and their numbers are comparable. But DeAndre Swift, I think he's at 935 yards on the season. got 3 games left. He's going to end up having a career year, assuming he stays healthy. Knock on wood. He's really been great. And yesterday again, Monungai was kind of quiet. He didn't have a bad game. He didn't do anything special, but DeAndre Swift was the constant. Both touchdowns, zigged on that one on the first one. Second one, like I said, maybe the Saints weren't very interested in tackling. But, that wasn't a gimme touchdown. It was 17 yards out. I thought he was just really good again. And he, you'd have to think about, who's been their MVP on offense this year. I might just give it to we got 3 games left. It's not the most important thing right now. But it might be DeAndre Swift, and he had another great game, I thought, yesterday.
Yeah, it's been really impressive. It's a big credit to obviously DeAndre Swift, but it's also a credit to Ben Johnson, right? He is putting these running backs in places to succeed. This whole offseason, all we kept talking about was you got to bring a new running back. You got to trade for one. You got to draft one. You got to sign one. DeAndre Swift is not good. He's not going to work with Ben. Ben traded him away after one season. This is not going to be a marriage that works. And they've proven everyone completely wrong this offseason or this season, right? DeAndre Swift is just running differently than he did last year. He's more fit. Yes. Not that he wasn't physical last year. I'm not trying to take away that all of a sudden he's trying or he wasn't a physical runner last year, but it just looks different this year. The way he's able to find his holes. And obviously, again, listen, a running back can only do so much if the offensive line isn't blocking for him. So that's a big credit to the offensive line and the improvements that Ryan Poles made in that regard too. But DeAndre Swift just is such an efficient runner, right? He finished with 98 yards. Okay, but he's averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry. And that's such a big thing because when you can pick up those 4 or 5 yards, you set up 2nd and 5, you set up 3rd and 5 or whatever if you misfire on first down. So that's a big credit to him and Ben Johnson just for putting each other in the best areas to succeed. And you have to be really happy that, even if Kyle maybe doesn't have the game that we're expecting to have, or 33 yards. Okay. Some games are just going to be like that for a running back. Right. So it's really encouraging to see that DeAndre really has just kept up the pace that he's had this entire season. He's dealt with a couple groin injuries and that kind of stuff. He's fought off some injuries and he's been around for this team the whole season. And that's just been so important to this whole offense working, right? This offense doesn't go anywhere if it's not for the running game. And that's a big credit to DeAndre just for buying into what Ben is selling and really executing it as well as he can.
Yeah, I think he's just been more decisive, and that's the O-line. He just looks more like a confident runner. He's gotten we're seeing that swagger more from him. Last year was a disaster. We know that. And not only with the O-line, everything was a disaster. But it's good to know that he's put that behind him because he was here for that mess last year. And there was a lot of finger pointing at him, as you mentioned, that he was the problem, that they got to upgrade. We were saying, I don't want to say what you were saying. I was saying it. We thought, what did they do? Why aren't they drafting a running back? And then there was a run on them. They missed the run on the running backs. Then they could have got Scatterable later. They passed on it. And it's what are you worried about? We got this. We get Monungai later. DeAndre Swift's going to run better. And I really did think he would be better with a better offensive line this year. But that said, props to him. He continues game in, game out after the slow start to the running game at the start of the season. He, at this offensive line, and Monungai have just been fantastic and a major, major reason why we know why they're sitting at 10-4.
All right. My final winner is going to be kind of a jumbo package here just because a lot of names I want to mention before we move on to some negativity here. That defensive performance was just such a dominant performance. Though they just took advantage of playing a rookie quarterback who's starting his 4th game of the season. The way Dennis Allen schemed against him, he was able to take away a lot of things. A lot of major shout-outs. Austin Booker had himself a game. He had 2 sacks. He had 4 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for a loss. That's a big performance. Jalen Johnson, I don't know how he got that interception. And that again is showing you why showing you why he's one of the best cornerbacks. And he's still trying to get back in there. The snaps are getting back in there, but that was such an impressive play for him to just be able to it wasn't like the play stopped. Like they were still running, and he had the mindset of being like, all right, I got to take the ball out of here. I got to maintain possession. I got to have both feet in the end zone to make sure that I'm not out of bounds or anything like that, or it leads to an incomplete pass. And that was just an insane interception from Jalen. So a credit to him just to be able to do that. CJ Gardner-Johnson picked off Sanders. That was obviously a big moment as well. DeMarco Jackson had a sack. Javon Dexter had a sack. Grady Jarrett had a sack. Just a defensive clinic, and that's exactly what you want to see. These guys are getting as healthy as they've been through the season. Obviously, Tyreek played a little bit yesterday. You're going to maybe see Tremaine Edmonds get back in here a little bit. Obviously, Kyler Gordon's regular season is done after he was placed on injury reserve. He could come back for the playoffs, but we'll obviously worry about that if the Bears do make the playoffs. But this defense just put on a show yesterday, and it has to be really encouraging heading into the final 3 games of the season.
Yeah, lots to discuss there. They took advantage. I thought Bayard would have the big game. We figured this was another game ripe for lots of turnovers. They waited until the second half to get one, but then they got them in bunches with Jackson and then Gardner-Johnson. What a pickup. Am I giving another shout out to Ryan Poles? Oh my goodness. Make sure we save the copy of this. Another shout out for this pickup. This has been like your mid-season trade, quote unquote, for CJ Gardner-Johnson. It's just been fantastic. Who continues to make plays. And then the Jalen interception. I mean, he never looked back at the quarterback. He was just basically face guarding him there. And then the ball, I don't know how you make that catch because Judy basically just couldn't hang on to it. Again, it's 8 degrees. It's cold. Guy's right in his face, Jalen Johnson. But then Jalen Johnson kind of like this ball just kind of trickled into his lap almost. I think that's I don't know how you make that catch. Almost like a blind catch, interception. Even first look at it, I'm sure you were the same way up in the press box. Like, what that happened there?
No one knew what happened. Everyone thought it was a touchdown at first, and then people were like, "Wait, does he have the ball?" Like, what's like? No one in the stadium knew what was going on for a moment.
It was crazy, but what an effort by the defense! 5 sacks. Again, it was a banged up. I almost said Saints. Browns offensive line. But you know what? You took advantage of it. And Austin Booker, man, that was his first sack since his season debut like 6 weeks ago. But he's keep showing little flashes here and there. And then he got the sack to close it out. The game was over. But you know what? It kept the Browns from scoring a touchdown there. So that was a big play too, in my opinion. But 2 sacks for him. He made another couple big stops. We're seeing a little more consistency with him too. Like, maybe he will be a guy going forward. Maybe he's going to be a part of the next, really great Bears football team. So all in all, it was cold. You had a rookie quarterback, a 5th-round pick. Shedeur did his best, but this was a game to take advantage of him, and they did.
All right, before we move on to the negatives, just some shout outs here. I thought that Devin Duvernay had himself a good game.
Yes.
He was averaging 15 yards per punt return, but he was averaging 41 yards. He returned 2 kickoffs for 82 yards. The first one was a big return that the Bears didn't take advantage of. But shout out to Devin Duvernay. I feel like he's kind of come on a little bit here in the last couple games. So that's going to be obviously be really, really impactful here as the Bears are making a playoff push. But Joe, anyone else you want to shout out before we move on to some negativity here?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned Duvernay though. And if you really want to appreciate Duvernay, just think Velus Jones, right? Because Duvernay, more than anything, has caught the ball. He's caught the ball. He hasn't let the ball bounce off somebody, turnover. He hasn't done anything stupid. He's played like a pro all year. He doesn't have to be busting off a touchdown, a kickoff return touchdown every 3 weeks or so. He's been really good. And, oh, my gosh, my third shout out to Ryan Poles, picking up this guy because you knew he wasn't going to be one of your top receivers, but you got him to catch punts and catch kickoffs. And that's, if you're on a bad team, that's like the least of your problems. That and, who's the long snapper. But when you're in position, when you have good football teams, you get contributions from all 3 phases. Special teams, you can even break that up with the kicker, the punter, the return guys. he's been a really integral piece of their success this year. So I'm glad you shouted out Duvernay. Shout out to, you can pick any position yesterday. Everyone was really good yesterday.
Rick shouting out Al Harris. Obviously, it's been a similar thing all season. Al Harris has been great at developing quarterbacks. Listen, if you're worried about any coaches leaving after this season, he might be the one you worry about. I'm interested to see if anyone gives him a defensive coordinator job, just based on the job that he's done here. Robert chiming in across the pond, saying a lot of people owe Swift an apology, I think. Obviously, I would agree with that. So really good performances from them. Rick also chiming in. Loveland again, what a great player, like we talked about earlier. Yeah, just a really impactful play for you guys, for the Bears. All right, Joe, let's go negative here a little bit. Obviously, there's not a lot to nitpick in the 31-3 loss, but there are still some things to talk about. And so what is one of your, I don't know if we'll go 3-3 on this because I wanted to talk about the playoff race here. So, but what are some negative things from yesterday's game?
I mean, it was hard doing my column yesterday, 3 things that didn't work. I struggled with the 3 things that didn't work because there weren't many. I mean, that mid-second quarter drive where they got down to the 8, moving, and then they get if I'm going to say, they got cute, it didn't work. Why are you getting cute? Because they get cute a lot of the times during the games and it works. But the one time they got cute was handing the ball off to Loveland. Pretty certain that was his first handoff of the season. It lost 2 yards. And then Monungai gets 1 yard, and now Caleb goes back to the throw. You still always have to have the Myles Garrett clock ticking in your head. He takes a sack there, and I know Myles Garrett will do Myles Garrett things, but also those are 3 bad plays, and then it leads to a 4th bad play when your kicker, I'm not going to get on the Cairo train, but he misses a 35-yard field goal because it's too cold. So that was it. Otherwise, and then you're thinking, well, now they don't score in the second quarter. Game should be over at halftime. It's not. It's only 14-0. And then Jackson gets the pick, bang, Caleb to DJ, ball game. That was it. But other than that, they weren't as good offensively in the second half. But that's okay. I mean, like you scored 31 points on an 8-degree day on the lakefront. A job well done. So that's about the only thing that really was glaring. Maybe only about the only 5 minutes where I was really angry watching the Bears yesterday.
Yeah, those moments were kind of like, man, you got to put this team away. Like the Browns look bad. The Browns are bad. They just look bad. I know they're obviously very injured. Shador's making his 4th career start. But they're just a bad team. Like if Bears fans are feeling bad about their mediocrity and things like that, just look at a Browns fan and you're just like, I feel so sorry for you with the whole quarterback stuff or whatever, all the different million quarterbacks. But so that's why I was kind of like, man, like you should really put this team away. And I am interested to see, because there was a really bad sequence there where the Bears, they went 7 and out to start the second half because they went for it on 4th down and missed. To start the second half. And so I am curious, if you don't get that interceptions, I know we can't play ifs and whats and all that kind of stuff, but I am curious, would you have been able to build something up offensively if it wasn't for that interception? Obviously, we'll never know. That's not the game that we play. Obviously, things happen. You can't play things like whatever, but I was a little bit like, I would like to see this offense put this bad Browns team away a little bit earlier. Just don't make it a game. I know they made it a 14-0 lead, but I would agree. I think that five drive stretch there where the Bears weren't able to get much offensively. I know it was cold, but it would have been good for the Bears to get something going offensively, because it felt like they were just playing inefficiently, which was very weird compared to how they were playing at the start of the game. My big loser is I don't know what is going on here, but the Bears need to reevaluate their health staff here. Last week, Kyler Gordon goes back out there. He warms up. He has a groin injury, and now he's placed on injured reserve. You got Rome Odunze, who, you obviously would want Rome Odunze to go back out there, but against the Browns, I think the Bears would have been fine without Rome if you give him another week just to kind of heal up and get him ready for this final 3-game stretch. But for him to re-aggravate his foot injury, and we don't know the severity of it. Ben Johnson didn't say anything after the game. We'll see more this Monday afternoon. But listen, if that injury costs Rome any more games, costs him his season, you're without your top wideout target because the training staff said he was good to go back out there. And, maybe it was a freak thing, but at this point, it doesn't seem like a coincidence where Jalen Johnson comes back early. He hurts himself in week 2. I know it's a separate groin injury, but still. Kyler Gordon is dealing with all these soft tissue injuries. TJ Edwards is dealing with a hamstring injury that's been bothering him for most of the season. I think there's just too much out there where it's not a coincidence at this point. It's not just like, Rome was just dealing with this thing. It's one or two guys. I think it's too much of a trend at this point. So I think the Bears need to reevaluate what's going on with their training staff. And I know that I don't think Ben Johnson made any changes in their regard when he came here. Obviously, he was trying to build his his coaching staff. And I think the training staff actually kind of remains consistent during coaching changes just because there's only so many changes you can make. But that has to be something that Ben Johnson looks at this offseason because it just hasn't been good this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair criticism. And I'll be real curious to see if they address this in the offseason, because I think if they are going to, it's going to be soon. It's going to be as soon as the season ends in San Francisco with the Super Bowl. I think you're going to see, because that's got to be cleared up and right away. Because then before, there's barely an offseason now in the NFL with these guys with OTAs and everything, and you're bringing the rookies in and everything. So, but yeah, it's tough too, Michael, because it's not like at the end of the season, okay, who are going to be the new coaches, free agency? No one's ever talking about, okay, who are the top training staffs available on the market now? Can we get this group of guys from the Titans or whatever, whoever's been the healthiest teams? We never hear talk about that. But certainly when you've had the issues you brought up so clearly just now, we're not doctors. If a guy says I'm good to go,
No,
okay.
Yeah.
It's hard. I don't know how you evaluate that, but as a coaching staff and as a front office, you have to be on top of everything. And if you don't know, bring in people who know. Here's what they should be doing. They did bring this guy back too soon. What are they doing in the offseason? There's so many elements to all of this, and I don't know what all of those elements are. But when you just look at your roster and do a little tally on your chart, who's missed how many games, when did he come back, when was he hurt again, what are the injuries, what are the common injuries here, you should be able to have enough metrics there or data to figure out, look, we got to change some things. And maybe sometimes just, it's injuries, it's just bad luck. But it's certainly been a consistent problem with this football team. And, this season, this league in particular, maybe more so than a lot of other sports, it's a matter of attrition, right? The Chiefs are the Chiefs, but Mahomes goes down in one of the past 5 years for whatever reason, they're probably not winning the Super Bowl, period. So it's got to be addressed, I think, and I think we'll know soon enough once the season ends. But good point.
Yeah, I just don't think I understand injuries happen. This is a violent game that they're playing. I'm not here to say that they shouldn't be injuries, and I'm blaming the training staff. And I realize also that, that every injury is different. Every player is different. I understand that cold weather plays a factor, but this isn't just a last couple months or last couple weeks issue, right? This has been an issue since training camp. So right. I just think that this was an issue in hot weather. This was an issue in moderate weather. This was an issue indoors. It's just been an issue. So again, I'm not calling for jobs. I'm not saying that you got to overturn the whole thing. They're liable or anything like that. Things are going to happen. All I'm saying is, when you have back-to-back weeks where guys re-injure their injuries in warm-ups and you've got a consistent list of soft tissue injuries, I think something has to be reevaluated. Whether it is Ben Johnson being like, all right, maybe I went a little bit too hard in training camp. We got some of these soft tissue injuries. Maybe I need to take it back a little bit. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe it's Ben Johnson. Maybe it's the training staff. I just think that for them to have, not that they're just having injuries, because injuries, like I said, happen, but for them to keep reappearing and for re-injuries, re-aggravations to happen, I think that's a trend.
Yeah, and I'm not going to put it really any of this on Ben Johnson right now. He's got enough things to fix, and you can't fix everything in one off season. I can't believe he's fixed this football team this quickly. I mean, that's where that's why he's going to be a coach of the year candidate. But maybe that's something, again, he's fixed so much with this football team, every part of it. So, but maybe in the offseason when they get a chance to breathe a little, they'll look at this and say, look, this was a problem. How do we get better besides, personnel? It's keeping our guys who are good on the field more.
Yeah. And obviously it's just trying to keep guys as healthy as possible. Again, I'm not here saying the Bears shouldn't have any injuries. That'd be an insane thing to say. Obviously this is such a violent game, but it definitely is. Like, listen, Ben Johnson is a detail-oriented guy who looks at literally everything, timing, all that different stuff. I would be surprised if he doesn't look at why are these guys getting re-injured? What are we doing with our rehab process? All right, Joe, any other things? You're not going to take I saw, where's Rick's comment here? Rick saying only loser is Cairo. Joe, take it away. I don't know. Like, listen, obviously that's a bad miss. That was the first time Cairo missed a kick in his Bears career under, what was it? I think it was 40 yards, 39 yards, something like that. Listen, it stinks out there. It's not good. Like, the ball is hard. It's not a good circumstance. It didn't cost you a game. Obviously, I'm not trying to dilute it, but go ahead.
I know, but I won't go there, Rick. My opinion on Cairo really hasn't changed. I mean, if you can upgrade the kicker in the offseason, I'm all for it. I still think you're going to need. It'd be nice to know when you're at the 35, not the 30 or the 25. When you're at the 35, you're in field goal range. That's because I think that's really key. And so many of these games,
I think you have been, though, haven't you? Like, that's the first time he missed from there in his Bears career.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, but I want the guy. No, I trust him. Right, the 35-yard, like, really. I mean, you're right. He hasn't done that. But ultimately, if I'm looking at how I want my football team to look, I want the boomer. I mean, you have to. It's a fine line. I get it. You got to be consistent. You can't be missing 2 30-yarders in a game because that guy's going to get cut the next week. But it'd be nice to know you're at the 35. That would be a 45, like a 52-yard. Even if you're close to the 40, you're in field goal range because so many of these stud kickers in this league can knock it 70 yards. It's insane. That's another hour conversation. How the game has progressed with kickers because they can all knock the snot out of it now. But I will give a shout out. How about the Browns kicker? I don't even know if anyone talked to the kid yesterday. He should have, Andre Schmidt, Vernon Hills High School kid I covered in high school. What a story. He's 25. He's kicked around, no pun intended, a little bit here and there. He's never played in an NFL game, I don't believe, until this season. Played at Syracuse, won the Lou Garza Award, the Big Toe Award, whatever it was, for the best kicker in the nation a few years ago. But how about Schmidt knocking through a 50-yarder? So in front of, I'm sure he had a lot of people there at the game at Soldier Field. But Andre Schmidt, so there's one more positive. It's a Browns positive, maybe one of the few for them all day yesterday. But Andre Schmidt, way to go, kid, 50-yarder. We'll take that on a cold 8-degree day on the lakefront. Good for him.
Rick chiming in, Robert chiming in saying, geez, Rick, you had to say something. All right, that's enough kicker conversation. I just felt like we had to address it. All right, we've got a few minutes here, Joe. Let's talk about this. We're talking about the playoffs here. A lot of stuff happened yesterday that, quite honestly, like, it really worked out in the Bears' favor. Now, again, with the context of you never wish injury on any player, any franchise, anything like that. The Micah Parsons injury is just terrible. Like, he's such a great player. Like, obviously there's a reason why the Bears fans wanted him on this team. Like, he's such a great player. He was so impactful. But the Packers not only lose to the Broncos, but they also lose Micah Parsons to a torn ACL for the season. Detroit loses to the Rams in what was a really tough game. Seattle survives Phillip Rivers and the Colts, and they're at 11-3. So as of this morning, the Bears are the number 2 seed. They're at 10-4. They would be hosting the Green Bay Packers in the wild card game to start off the playoffs. Bears are a half game above the Green Bay Packers for that NFC North lead as well. Listen, Joe, I mean, Caleb was asked about it yesterday about, how confident are you heading into this final 3-game stretch? And Caleb said, essentially, like, we've done it all. We've seen the ups and lows. We've won in blowout fashion. We've won in dramatic fashion. We won because of special teams. We won because of offense. We've won because of defense. And I believe that, like, this team has been through it this year. Like, this team has done a lot. Some of it is part of itself. Some of it is its own fault that some games were much closer than they needed to be. But the Bears have experienced, I feel like, practically everything at this point and have dealt with a lot of adversity. So, they host the Packers on Saturday night, then they go to San Francisco, then they host Detroit. This is going to be one heck of a 3-game stretch here, Joe.
I mean, you're 10-4. Just 2-3 weeks ago, we were talking like, hey, you get the 10, you're in the playoffs. 10's the magic number. It doesn't look like it's going to be the magic number anymore.
You might need 12 at this point. I don't even know if 11 guarantees you anything.
I know. I mean, you might have to get 12. Now, to me, all 3 games are winnable. All 3 games are losable. And again, you can't say the Bears are playing a trap game against the Packers because that's never. It's the Packers. There's no trap game.
No, there's no.
But you think, hey, boy, and Christian Watson got hurt yesterday. We saw what an impact he made last week against the Bears. So this is going to be a good grind here. I think if you start thinking the negative, okay, they lose 2 out of 3 here. You got to get 1 because not even 1 is guaranteed. But the idea of losing to the Packers twice and the Lions twice in one season, that might be more upsetting to me, whether they get into the playoffs or not. And everyone wants to see them make the playoffs, get a game, even if they're 1 and done in the playoffs. But you got to beat these teams. And I know, look, I don't want to get too Neanderthal, like you got to beat the Packers, you got to beat the Lions. You got to be football teams. Yeah, they count the same. But these are the teams you need to pass in the NFC North. And if you're ever going to take control of the North and ever give it back, Ryan Poles, you got to beat the Packers and the Lions. Even if you split with them, at least you're beating them. So you got to get one of these wins, if not both of them, against those teams. The Niners game, I'm already counting as a loss. Maybe I'll be wrong. They're not. Every team is flawed in this league. But it's going to be a grind, which is fun. It's fun to be in these games because normally at this time of the year, me and other Bears fans, we've been looking at mock drafts for the last month and a half. So we're not doing that right now. I couldn't even tell you like who the top picks in the 2026 are. I just know the Bears have tough games coming up, and I'm looking at each of them.
Yeah. Sorry, Joe, you're kind of going in and out there, but yeah, I think I get the point. Yeah, it is fun where you're getting it's fun that you're watching other games because it matters for Bears playoff seeding. It's not because, well, if they lose, then the Bears jump up to number 3 or number 2 overall in the draft selection. So yeah. That's definitely a different fun. That's definitely fun watching that. Do you think 1 gets them in? I heading into a couple weeks ago, and the Bears have kind of reinforced this idea where I was kind of like, all right, I think 11 wins gets them in. But now, listen, like everyone is holding serve in this NFC, like in these NFC playoffs. Like the NFC South, like the winner of that division gets into the playoffs. That takes away pretty much a spot there. But you look at the other wild card teams, the Seahawks are at 11 wins. The 49ers are at 10 wins. The Packers are at 9 wins. The Lions are at 8 wins. And then obviously the Rams are at the top of things with 11 wins. Like, listen, if Detroit wins out, and I know it's a hard schedule, but if they win out and they get to 11 wins, like they would own the tiebreaker over the Bears, assuming that they obviously lose to the Bears at the end of the season. So I don't know if I think you might need to win 2 here. And obviously that preference would be to beat the 2 NFC North teams just for NFC North race. You obviously secure yourself a home playoff game, all that sort of stuff. But I don't know how you feel just looking at things, but I think I'm kind of talking myself into you might have to win 2 of these next 3 instead of just 1 of these next 3, which is how tight things are here.
Well, if you do that, it means you're winning the NFC North. Like
if you win 2 out of 3, you're into playoffs for sure. I don't. Yeah. The 1 out of 3, I'm not entirely sure of. If you lose all 3, you're not into playoffs. That's just how it is.
Because if you only win 1, would put you at 11. 10 plus 1 is 11. It means you're losing. You're losing to the Packers and the Lions, which means you're probably not winning the NFC North. Now you're taking your chances. So that's the real. And who does, I don't have it in front of me, who does the Detroit have left besides the Bears? They got 2 other games.
Detroit plays. They play the Steelers and the Vikings. So quite honestly, like that, those are 2 very winnable teams for Detroit. So again, that Week 18 game could be for a lot. All these games for a lot at this point. The 49ers game is going to be an electric Sunday night game. Like, listen, Detroit could be coming into Chicago. But if the Bears split or even lose both of their next 2 games, like that Week 18 game is going to be insane. Ben Johnson playing against his former team. Like all of these it's not easy.
The team that blew you out, embarrassed you, an epic loss for Chicago, for that franchise. 52-21, was it? What was it, right?
It was 52-12 or something. It was a long time ago, and it was a very sad day for Bears fans.
We said the next day, that better be Ben Johnson's worst loss as a Bears coach. That better be. And if you have a chance in the final game of the regular season to avenge that loss and likely then knock Detroit out of the playoffs, right? Wow. That's the way to end it. And then you see who you play. To me, playoffs, I know you want to win the Super Bowl, but I mean, you're in the playoffs. If a playoff win would be just a bonus, no one would want to see that. You don't want to lose, period, right? Regardless of your record. But it's just going to be a fun grind here. No gimmies, no more Browns, no more Saints on the schedule. But you can go 3. You can win all 3. The confidence on this team should be very high. I mean, they're 1 pass away and a conversion from beating the Packers. You know, I mean, that was a good football game, a really good football game, as we've talked about. So it's not like, and they've responded from the great win, the win of the year at Philly on the Black Friday. They've responded with 2 encouraging efforts. And you know, I heard one of my Packer buddies saying, I heard all the Bears fans like talking about a moral victory against the Packers. You lost. I'm like, I get it, but you got to understand the Bears this is bonus year for them. We were hoping they weren't going to get blown out. And then you hope they don't struggle against a bad Browns team. And no, they took care of business. They clearly were the dominant team yesterday. So their confidence should be really high, and it's going to be a fun 3 weeks.
It's really funny, right? Because Ben was asked after the game, do you take anything from winning 10 games in your first season? He was kind of like, no, which is like like, I understand why he said that, because he's focused on making the playoffs. 10 wins isn't going to be enough, but what an insane thing to say. Like at the beginning of the season, if you told Bears fans that they were going to win 10 games in Ben Johnson's first season, you'd be like, I'm in for it. Let's do it. Like, I don't care what else happens. Like, I'm all the way in. 10 wins in the first Bears season after what they just did. Like, that'd be amazing. But now, you know, the context changes. It'll be really interesting to see. Robert chiming in, Lions will have 10 wins coming into Chicago guaranteed. Obviously, Robert, nothing's guaranteed in the NFL, but I like your bet. I think that's a very strong thing. Rick chiming in, just worry about the Lions. They have 2 more losses than us. If the Lions lose just 1 game and we have 1 win, we make the playoffs. We'll need to see what are not to keep this thing going, but if you beat the Packer or the Lions, you have the same time. You obviously lose that division tiebreaker. But the Lions are 1-3 in the division, and the Bears are 1-3 in the division. So that will play a major factor, and I think that's the next tiebreaker. George chiming in, he says that the Bears will win 13 games. That's a very optimistic look. He's got them winning the next 3 games. And Rick also saying 1 game qualified to playoffs, like we talked about. So, like I said, it's a very different spot for Bears fans to be in. Obviously, it's fun. It'll be a really fun 3-game stretch here as the Bears are trying to get back into the playoffs for the first time since 2020. A very fun. Usually, Sean and I, this time last year, we were talking about, All right. Do you try to get the number 8 pick, 7 pick, and that kind of stuff? And can you get earlier and all that kind of stuff?
Right.
But it is fun. It's a very fun ride. It'll be a really fun 3 weeks here, and we'll obviously have you guys covered over the next 3 weeks as the Bears make their playoff push. But that is everything that we've got for this Monday morning. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us this morning. It was great to see you guys on YouTube. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. If you're joining us on Facebook, appreciate all the love there and the comments there. And if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you subscribe so you get all the latest episodes as soon as they come out. And make sure you give us a like as well. It's a short week here. The Bears are hosting the Packers on Saturday night. Bears will be back at it tomorrow. Just a scheduling note. I'll confirm. Joe will confirm with you later on. But since it's a shorter week, we will plan to do a Thursday preview podcast. Just because I'll be off on Friday since they're playing on Saturday. So we'll be doing this on Thursday morning. If you guys want to make sure to join us there, we'll obviously send out a time and that sort of stuff. But just planning wise, we'll plan on doing a Thursday morning. But until then, have a good week. Make sure you guys are staying warm out there. I think it's supposed to thaw out and get out to 40. So that'll be good. And then we'll talk to you folks later on this week as we preview a big game between the Bears and the Packers on Saturday night. Until then, have a good week, guys.